All right, we are live. How's everybody doing today? Hopefully, we are all having a nice, good Monday. I have a great couple of people on here, and so I was just getting set up. And they are from 1701 Homes, and it is Todd Albery and Bryan Kunka. And I'm probably butchered that last name. Sorry about that. So we are here. This is Real Estate Talk with Randy Stedwell. As you can see, we go here live. Now it's every other Monday at 8 p.m. We're staying consistent. We're being out there, and we're going to bring new people on every single podcast to interview, talking about real estate. We brought on lenders. We brought on wholesalers. We brought on fix and flippers. We brought on anything to do with real estate. We're talking all about real estate here. In the chat, go ahead, leave your comments. If you have any questions, ask them. We will answer them live while we're here. I will integrate it into what we're talking about. So try to keep it to what we're talking about. And without further ado, I'm going to bring up Todd and Bryan. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. I like Bryan Kunka. I'm gonna use that. He made an age joke the last time we were talking in front of some people. So I'm gonna use that Kunka in all kinds of ways.
I am sorry.
Thanks, Randy. That was great.
How do you say your last name?
Kunka or Kunka, either way.
Kunka. Okay.
It's all good. It's all good.
I like to drop the N every once in a while.
Yeah, my dyslexia. I blame it on that. So with that being said, so what we'll do is kind of give you guys a brief, beforehand. We start off with beginning, middle, and kind of like beginning where you're at now, then where you're at now, and what you plan on doing in the future. Now, at any point in time here, please let us know, our audience, how we can help you as well, so we can kind of go along that journey with you. So with that being said, why don't so your guys' company name is 1701 Homes, okay? And I know there was a special meaning to that, but why don't we go into, first off, how you guys met, what made you decide to go into real estate, and then what made you go into real estate together?
I have known this Kunka character for, probably over a decade or so. And he and I both kind of had the privilege to lead Dan Gilbert companies. Bryan was part of the Bisnum U, which is a kind of a university that Dan created for entrepreneurs. Very, very cool. And Bryan was leading the company there. And I was able to lead a company called Quizzle inside the Quicken Loans family of companies for a while. So Bryan did, I almost called it picket fence, Bryan. Picket report. And he did that for a while, and then came over to join us for Quizzle, ran the biz dev team within Quizzle for a long time. And we were on a similar track with Credit Karma. And we gave out free credit reports and then used that data to help people make financial decisions. A lot of those decisions were revolving around some of the products within Quicken Loans and beyond. So that was fun. Did that for a little over a decade. Bryan was a huge part of that. We sold in 2015 to a company called Bankrate.com, who then a couple of years later sold to Red Ventures. And Bryan was kind of sneaking away near the end, and he kind of left first and started doing some real estate, which I plugged into just from an investment standpoint at first. And then he was having way too much fun. So I decided to come join him, buying and fixing up houses and flipping and all that good stuff.
Okay.
The narrative is always nicer how you like couch it. When I snuck away because I was let go from Bankrate. So
well, hang on though. In all fairness to Bryan, they were moving everybody out to New York and North Carolina, which I think Sarah was almost ready to go to North Carolina, by the way. So, and by the way, as Bryan was sneaking out, they were coming looking for some incredible stuff that he had built along the way to borrow and take for the new company. So,
okay.
Don't let him sell himself short.
The way I see it is even if they let you go, it's still they may have closed that door, but it opened up a brand new one for you. So
Todd and myself, we've just always been super entrepreneurial with everything that we've done. We've always kind of approached business, and we just try to have a lot of fun, and we just love building things. So part of the reason why he and I get along so well is, we definitely have, we view the world very similarly. We spent over a decade inside of Quicken Loans, and you learn a lot about culture inside of Quicken Loans. Like for good, bad, or ugly inside of Quicken or Rocket Mortgage now. Like a lot of people kind of say the same thing. They're like, oh, they work you hard there. Well, they tell you they're going to work you hard. And then everybody's just kind of like surprised by this. Like, oh my gosh, they want you to work nights. They want you to work weekends. But one of the things that Dan Gilbert did an amazing job of, and kind of the leadership, is they had, this, thing called ISMs, which is basically company philosophies. And they're brilliant. They're fantastic. And they spend so much time, effort, and energy on company culture. And with Todd and myself spending 10 years inside of Quicken Loans or Rocket, and really like seeing what it means to really walk the talk for company culture, I think that's where he and I like became very quickly aligned. Like we're both naturally big thinkers. And when you take a combination of like, hey, we both have a love of like real estate, technology, mortgage, credit, that type of stuff, everything kind of surrounding the house. We think big, and we share the same like cultural values. That's a good recipe. And so that's
most definitely. So how did you guys keep from, most people had, when they partner up, they have issues on, okay, it works. You got the honeymoon phase. Okay. And I like to say that because it's like basically a partnership is a marriage, and so you got that honeymoon phase where you both work and you're both cranking it out, but then every now and then you come across where one's not doing as much, or one feels like they're picking up, basically doing everything, and the other one's concentrating on other things and things like that. How did you guys, I don't want to say avoid that, because I don't know if you had that issue, but I guess avoid that or resolve that if you did have that issue?
It's awkward right now, Randy, because we totally have that issue, and we really haven't talked about it. And I've just been carrying Bryan. No, I'm just kidding. if anything, it's probably the reverse. Bryan's been absolutely phenomenal. I'll say we've known each other, for so long. I think we knew pretty well what we were getting into. We knew each other's shortcomings and strengths and all that kind of stuff. And it's funny, some of our shortcomings are similar, and a lot of our strengths are similar too. We're actually probably too similar to be in business together. We probably don't do enough yin and yang. And we're both kind of visionaries and stuff like that. But at the same time, we've done, I think, a really good job. We've got an amazing team. And so we found people that kind of fill those gaps and who are absolutely amazing and fill some of our shortcomings. And we're both pretty aware of where we're decent and where we're not. And we're pretty honest with each other. Bryan said we like to have fun. I mean, we in this business, if you can't, if you don't like challenges and you don't like to laugh and at the ridiculousness of every single day, you're not going to last long in this business. So we think it's pretty funny. We have a good time as a team. Even when we're in the thick of it and your houses are going sideways, we're still able to laugh and have a good time and figure things out. I mean, you got a bunch of, as long as you got a bunch of people that are dead set on figuring it out, whatever happens, and not
Yeah.
focusing on the negative, but just, hey, okay, now we know,
Yep.
let's go and let's fix it. That's kind of fun. If we've both been sports guys and been on teams. So that's kind of what you do
Okay.
on a team. You get some adversity and you band together, and that's usually the team that wins. So we've been really
So
fortunate to find great people.
so in the beginning, did you guys hash out, say, hey, I'm gonna do this part, you're gonna do this, and kind of like, okay, I'm gonna be, how should I say, the coach of this side of the business of handling this, you're gonna be the coach of this, and then, kind of advise each other and, give advice, or did you just kind of like let it flow?
Yeah, I don't think we did that, Todd. I think the one of the things that we kind of talk about early and often is handcrafting the business. And
Hmm.
handcrafting the business is really like, when you're doing something new, when you're doing the flipping business, like you need to touch it, you need to feel it, you need to get involved with it. You need to do certain things to understand, like
Yeah.
like sometimes you clean a filthy house to understand what you're actually asking of your cleaners.
Hmm.
Sometimes like you just do a bunch of this stuff to like really like understand what you're up against. And as Todd and I like started this business, had a third partner, and the third partner had the background in the flipping and
Hmm.
the real estate side. So Todd and I were just here, from the scalability side, like how do we scale, how do we build process and procedure and that type of stuff. So we started learning that way, and we both kind of jumped in where needed. Third partner was not a partner person. So at the end of the day, he was kind of more of a lone wolf.
Hmm.
So after, less than a year, we decided to kind of separate, and we kept moving. And at that point, that's when we started kind of dividing and conquering a little bit more.
Hmm.
Um, Todd kind of handled like more of the CFO type role. I kind
Okay.
of handled more of the project, like, you know, like construction type stuff and finding some houses, and over the course,
Project coordination type stuff.
yeah, we had a project manager that was not the right fit.
Mm.
Um, wasn't, we look for servant leaders,
Yep.
and it just wasn't, wasn't the right fit for one reason or another. So so when that happened, it started like the need of the business started becoming more and more clear, and he was
Yep.
kind of handling some of the money stuff. So he kind of went deeper there.
Hmm.
And you know I'm super grateful he did, because the money stuff is neither of our like passions. uh,
Yeah.
but when you're talking about the flipping business, I mean, it's a third of the business. I mean, the way you
Hmm.
break it down, you got houses, you got money, you got crews. Like a,
Yep.
a third, a third, a third. Like you need to spend all of your time, equally on those things. And if you are off on one of them, then it just kind of really throws stuff off. Um, so yeah. So over the course of time, when there was a need, like Todd
Hmm.
jumped in, and he's still handling that stuff, focusing on that to this day. Um, probably much to his chagrin, but he's done a fantastic job jumping in and kind of doing that. But now as we've kind of grown the business, we have a
Hmm.
flipping business, a wholesale business, a short-term rental, and a long-term rental business. Now what's happened is he and I have kind of divided and conquered in that way, and he's focused
Hmm.
more on um, short-term rental and wholesale, and I've kind of focused on our long-term rental with Detroit and our flipping. But
Hmm.
flipping is still the main, it's the dog. Everything else is kind of the tail right now. So
Hmm.
we all come together for the flipping business as well. So over
That's
time,
awesome.
it's become a lot more clear on how that.
So what did you start off? What did you guys start off doing? Obviously, you didn't say, "All right, we're going to do all three and head at it." So how did you break into it? Did you break into it with the wholesaling, the flipping? Like, how did you like? What was your guys's? I want to say, what was your guys' first deal like? I don't know if you remember back then because I'm sure it was a
Yeah.
long time ago.
No, it,
So
it, it, was, it was only 5 years ago. We bought it
yeah.
from a wholesaler, bought it from Ron Walraven, house in Southfield. And first deal was, I don't know, just kind of a small house,
Hmm.
uh, kind of no big deal. At that time, Todd and I were not like, we were kind of hands-on from the standpoint of like, I don't know, how would you describe that, Todd, at that point? Like, we weren't like
Initially,
in the gritty of it. We're kind
initially
of
we were kind of working with our third partner, and he was doing a lot of this, and he was cranking it out. And
Okay.
so it was kind of a learning experience, like, hey, what's going on? And he wanted to take it to another level, and uh, he didn't have any processes in place. So it was just
Okay.
every day was total chaos. And frankly, he worked pretty well. Frankly, he worked pretty well in the chaotic mode. Like he was just getting things done, you
Mhm.
know. But he was looking for more efficiency and how do we grow this? How do we scale it? How do we have more crews? More trusted crews. Do we need handymen? What does this business really look like at a higher volume? And we pretty quickly did like 33 houses together. So we put some real scaling techniques in place, and we probably, in hindsight, moved too fast, on that. But you get a heck of an education. It's baptism by fire, and no one house is going to kill you. If you're doing a bunch, and you're getting a lot. We're kind of data guys, Bryan and I. So we like to, if you do one, not saying it's not the right thing to do, and for some people it certainly is, but if you do one or two houses only a year,
Mhm.
you better hope that those are good houses and they hit.
Yeah.
If you're doing 20, 22 houses a year, you've got some leeway there. Hopefully a few of them are decent
Mhm.
and you can try some things, We've been able
So
to do all kinds of different things and try some different things and go outside of where a realtor might say, hey, everything white and beige, and let's just be
yeah.
careful on that, And we've gotten to a place with our team now where we've got designers who just do some absolutely incredible things who would probably have been long gone like 2 or 3 years ago if we were saying everything's white and beige. They're doing feature
Yep.
walls and black doors and all kinds of different bronze stuff. It's really cool, and we've benefited from it too. So if we
Yep.
had one or two houses, we probably would have never tried that stuff. And in hindsight, it helps when you have an unbelievably talented construction leader, which Nicole is, and designer.
Mhm.
So that part helps immeasurably, but still, she was able to try new things and get some things right and get some things wrong. She actually got way more things right than wrong, to the point where we were like, hey, feel free to get some things wrong sometimes. Let's push envelopes, which she did. She really kind of pulled Bryan and I out of our comfort zone. But that's the benefit you get of going kind of big and getting to try different things for sure.
So that first, I'm assuming it was a fix and flip, your first deal that you guys did. And I'm assuming you guys made money on it and learned a lot of lessons from that. Now, was it a lot less? How many lessons did you learn on that first deal?
I think we
Because
made money on our third deal. But the
okay.
third deal finished before the first deal. I might have these a
Oh,
little bit sideways, but like the third deal was amazing. The third
okay.
house we bought, but the first house uh, south of, you're talking Melrose, right, Bri?
Yep.
Yeah. So that, I would say, that was not a good house. If we had just bought that house, done that house, we'd have been probably folding up the business, about 6 months
Okay.
later. So
So did you lose money on it, or did you just scrape by,
it,
break even?
what was it? It's
I-
it's kind of crazy. It's almost embarrassing to say we don't totally know. I think that was a pretty darn close to break even, wasn't it, bro?
Okay.
yeah, it
So
was like a couple $1,000 the other
yeah,
direction.
so the way I see it is, and this is what I'm trying to tell new people coming in as well, is you said you made a tremendous deal on your third deal. Okay. Your first deal, you basically, I'll call it break even. Okay.
Yep.
Making
No,
$1,000 as a fix and flipper is not that bad, not too good,
we definitely lost money on our first deal. Like we don't
Yeah.
have to we don't have to sugarcoat it. I think a lot of people sugarcoat this business
Yeah.
and say like, yeah, we probably broke even. I mean, we've lost a bunch of money on a bunch of houses, and part of the
Yeah.
reason why we've done that very specifically.
Yep.
And I mean, we don't want to lose money. Don't get me
No.
wrong, but what happens is, we're trying a bunch of things and we're gathering data. Like one of the reasons why we did 42 houses the very first year that we got into this business
Hmm.
is we knew that we needed data. And if you don't have data, like Todd said, you do one house, you don't know if you were good, were you lucky, were you unlucky. So we're like, okay, kind of the big thinker side of us is,
Yep.
okay, we really need to understand this business. And coming from Quizzle, where we had millions of people inside of the software, you get a lot
Hmm.
of data and just like really understand. So we said, okay, we're gonna attempt to tackle this with a lot of data, and the only way you can do that is buy a lot of houses. The only way you can do that is take a lot of chances. So you take
Okay.
chances, and they don't always work out, and that's perfectly fine. That's 1,000% a philosophy of ours. Is that, hey, you know what? We're going to keep trying. You're going to fail forward. Like if you
Yep.
take on a project and you lose money, like you better win from like learning why did that one not work. So you do your postmortem, understand why didn't that project work? Did I buy it too high? Did our cost
Hmm.
overruns go too high? Like what was the scenario there for that to kind of go the direction that it did. But I think what you'll find in this business is there's just a lot of people that have a lot of like bravado, like, oh, I've never lost any money. And the reality is, if you haven't lost, like if you're doing, a couple of houses a year, that's perfectly fine. But if you're
Yep.
doing it at scale, every like flipper that I know that's doing flipping at scale, you're going to lose money. You're going to come across a buzzsaw. You're going to come across a problem house.
Yes.
And realistically, if you're not trying, you're leaving a lot of money on the table by not losing money, which sounds crazy, but there's so many houses that we buy that you would otherwise be like, you know what, you're not gonna, it might be a little too tight.
Hmm.
But over these last 4 or 5 years, we've been able to buy a lot of houses that were tighter, and you lose money on maybe one or two of the tight houses,
Hmm.
and you figure out how to eke out more money than you were anticipating. So anyhow, sorry to jump on top of it like that,
That's all
but
right.
there's just so many people. Like there's nobody in this space that's just like, hey, like let me tell you about all the problems. Let me tell you, like we're
Yes.
perfect every day. Like we've never had one thing go wrong.
Yep.
And what's today? Today's Monday. I've had 15
Yeah.
things go wrong today.
And that's the key that I'm trying to bring to everybody is that, you know what, you need to take action and you learn from action. Okay. So you learn from your mistakes. If you haven't made mistakes, you haven't learned anything. And this is what I tell people all the time. I not only learn from my own mistakes, but by talking to you guys, I'll learn from your mistakes too. So by bringing in, asking you guys questions, hey, and if you're not that type of person to go out there and put your business out there, you're going to make more mistakes because you have to be out there you have to learn from other people's, like, hey, I got in this situation, and then you got to be able to take risk. You're not a flipper if you're not going to take any risk. There's always risk in this business, no matter what.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
I
Randy,
got.
that's a great point. And Bryan is a master. Every once in a while, my wife will joke when she's seeing one of his Facebook lives or something, be like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay with him saying that? What if your investors hear that?" And I'm like, totally. Like it's more than okay. It's the reality of the situation.
Yes.
Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it's not perfect. But you know what I think, and you just kind of mentioned it, but I think you do yourself a disservice when you're not honest at all, because then nobody,
Yep.
if you're kind of like, hey, everything's great with me, we're killing it. How are you doing? Like the other person can be like, oh yeah, I'm killing it too. Instead, Bryan's really good at sharing some of the tougher stories or the things that are going
Hmm.
wrong. And next thing you know, that person's opening up. They're going, oh yeah, I had this happen. And pretty
Yep.
soon you're talking about how to fix that stuff. You're talking about real issues, not like the Facebook, yeah, everything's perfect and here's my beautiful family picture, all the time.
Oh
It's kind
yeah.
of like, it's just kind of a moment of honesty when you open up. Other people tend to open up too, kind of like you're saying. So
Yeah, most definitely. And when you put yourself out there to people, there's only a handful of people out there that will try to bring you down. And the only reason they're trying to bring you down is because they're down.
right.
So you want to ignore those people and just stick with the people who wants to help you and or just share their story with you. And now you can learn from their story. So, and that's another reason why I wanted to do this podcast out and put all this out there so people can learn. I don't pretend to be a guru. I'm in wholesaling. That's what I know. I'm not a flipper. I've never done a flip house. I've never flipped a house myself. I will one day. Um, but I don't pretend to know that. So that's why I bring people like you guys on, or lenders or anything like that, and ask you the questions. And selfishly, I'll use you guys in the future. So, you know. Now I do have a couple questions here from the audience, and so we'll go from this. This Facebook one is from David Call Jr. It's from the Facebook group, so that's why you don't see the name on here, but I have it pulled up on the side. So he said, "Hi Todd and Bryan. It can't always work out. Have you ever had to let anyone and basically let anyone go? Have it work out for both parties? And have you happy to have you shift get you guys shifting on the fly? So
let me jump on it. So we know Dave really well. And so,
wait, I was going to jump. I was going to say, oh no, never, Dave. Thanks for the question.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bryan. We know Dave. We know Dave super well. He's awesome.
Yeah. So we were working with Dave probably last year, and he's just kind of joking around saying, "Hey, did it ever not work out for both parties?" We were working with him, and at the end of the day, like, we did go our separate ways, but we love Dave. Dave's awesome. He's got a beautiful daughter. He's a good dude. He's learning this wholesale business. He's working with Todd Chun right now, helping him out.
Yep.
I don't know to what extent he's working with him, but Dave is one of these guys. Let me tell you a little story about him. So Dave is one of these guys that he was a wholesaler, threw out an opportunity for a house in Harper Woods. I met him out there. He had a partner at the time, and went out there, talked with him, and man, Dave and I had a great conversation. We were only at the house for, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes or so. And then afterwards, I was talking with him. We had told him what our price would be, which was less than what he had in our contract for. He renegotiated it. And then he and I had a fantastic conversation, talked with him probably for an hour, about life's challenges and ups and downs. And he's been through some adversity, and man, he is one of these guys that was just so inspiring to be able to like fight through and battle through the adversity that he's kind of faced in his life. And it was like, hey, you know what? Like, I want to be around good people. And at the end of the day, like, he's doing his thing. He's learning. I feel like we go down parallel paths in this business. Like, sometimes we work together and we're together. And other times we work near each other. So Dave and I, he'll still send me opportunities, and from that we had a house in Harper Woods that Dave brought to us, and from that meeting he introduced us to one of our main crews that has been fantastic. So we've worked with John and Tony for the last couple of years now, just from going to look at wholesale houses and having conversations. Like, we were able to work with him for a while. We were able to buy a house. We were able to find a new crew. So this conversation. So he's over here joking around on the side here, but just
most definitely. Like, Dave's a really good guy. Like, I've met him before.
And real quick on that, I mean, we talked about the fact that we try things, right? We try a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So we were trying to do some outbound outbound stuff, which is really hard. Dave did a phenomenal job with it. He's incredible at talking to people. We just weren't ready for it as a business. We just kind of realized we weren't ready. We didn't really even have the resources and people around Dave to make it work to do outbound. We thought, hey, this is an opportunity. We're going to give it a try. And we did. And Dave was great, and our company just kind of wasn't ready for it. But that's, those are things we do. We try things.
Yep.
And we bring on great people. So
Most definitely. And that's the good thing. Like I said, I met Dave a couple times, and he is working with Todd on that. But yeah, he's a great guy, awesome person to be around. So if you ever get a chance to meet him in person at the meetups, by all means, have a good conversation with him, learn from him. So we got I get a question. So Jeff G from YouTube is asking, how far behind are you guys on your bills? And I think what he means is it like a net 30 or anything like that? Do you guys have that type of thing set up? I don't
Randy,
really.
I'm not going to lie. The second I saw that question, I immediately texted Nicole, who is Jeff G? Do we owe him money right now?
Oh yeah.
And
so that's
we don't know. I mean, we can answer that question. I will talk about, right now, like it's a really good time. Like the market changed last year. Okay.
Yeah.
So our business has been humming along, and then come July, August of last year, the market changed dramatically. We anticipated that interest rates were going to go up. We didn't anticipate that they were going to go up basically overnight. That's never happened before in the history of rates like that. So if you take a look, I was listening to the chief economist of NAR, and he was sitting there talking, National Association of Realtors, and he was talking about how like it's just been unprecedented for rates to jump that fast. So we were anticipating that. And we've been kind of sitting there waiting for the market to change. And once the market was going to change, we were going to hop deeper into long-term rentals, and short-term rentals became a thing. But one of the things that happened is, we probably purchased 40 houses last year in the first 6 months. In the last 6 months, we maybe only purchased 5. And it's caused cash flow issues, even going into this, the beginning portion of this year. Still haven't bought a ton of houses. And the way that our investment work is when we purchase a house, we get 100% of the purchase price. We get 100% of the rehab. So if we buy a house for 100, we need 50,000 to fix it, and it's worth 200. We get a loan for 150 at closing, and 50,000 comes into our pocket.
Gotcha.
So when we're not buying houses, then we don't have cash coming in kind of at the same speed as what it used to. And then when we're selling houses, they're taking, 2 months longer than they were our entire, existence. So recently, over the last few months, we've had, cash coming in has slowed down dramatically. And Todd has been amazing at threading these needles, talking to everybody. Like it's a true lesson in leadership on how to handle like difficult times. Like it's not always like rainbows and unicorns in this business. And what you'll find most of the time is that most people, when things are going poorly or badly, they just like shut up. They don't say anything. They hide. They're embarrassed of it. They don't talk about it. And one of the things that, Todd and I from day one, we've talked to each other about, the real problems, the good, the bad, and the ugly of this business. And when you do that, when you have real conversations and honest conversations, and then you share that with the team and you share that with your contractors, then everybody understands. But if you don't say anything, and if you go dark on somebody, like most people tend to do when they don't know what to do, and that person's brain goes to the deepest, darkest places that it can. And Todd just doesn't allow that. He does a phenomenal job. So when Jeff said, "Hey, how far behind are you on your bills?" I'm like, oh, here we go. Shame us. What do we owe you, Jeff?
So based on this next question that he asked, he might know you. I don't know, because I don't know who Jeff G is, by the way. But he says, how many of the lake houses are actually on the water and not a block away? That you guys
all on the
own?
water.
Yeah,
They're all on the water. That's what I figured, but I just wanted to ask. So, but
no, I don't know the I don't know if there's anything deeper behind that question, but all of our lake houses are directly on the water.
That's awesome.
I mean, I wouldn't assume that's a nefarious question. I think you can say lake houses and they have lake access, and there's kind of nothing wrong with that. But and this is a vision Bryan had like years ago, and we're just kind of finally jumping to it, and the market's been really nice to make the shift. Instead of doing like 50 flips this year or 52, we're going to do 26 and 26, or maybe even a little bit less. But we're going to convert 26 over to short-term rentals. Maybe we're kind of on a nail it and scale it, so we may even slow that just a little bit, because this short-term rental business is not a passive business. It's pretty active, and there's a lot of management that comes along with it. So we want to make sure we get it right. But one thing that I think we've done a really great job is finding really great houses that are on water. And one of the things that's out there that people have told us is the number one thing that folks want, especially when it's kind of a lake house of sorts, even if it has lake access, but they want a lake house. They want peace. Peace is what people are searching for in these short-term rentals. They just want to go somewhere and feel at peace. And there is something about looking out at a body of water, whether it's, we're on beautiful all sports lakes, and then we've got some stuff on just some, I guess would be called a pond, but kids still swim in it, but it's beautiful, but it's just beautiful to look at. And so we have not gotten houses that are a block away. We've gotten them all right on the water, which I think is key for some of the rates that we're able to get.
And that's the good thing is like, I remember I grew up here in Michigan. I'm from Ferndale, actually. So I grew up in Ferndale. I went to all Ferndale schools. And to me, it was, okay, all the rich, I lived on the poor side of Ferndale, by the way. So all the rich kids, they go on the weekend with their parents and go up north to the lake on the with the boats and all that, and never got a chance to do that, or ride four-wheelers or ride dirt bikes, whatever. And so I always thought that was like the coolest thing to do. And that's like, okay, you made it when you got a lake house, when you got a place up north you can go to and things like that. So
Randy, you made up for it, because you moved north to that little town called Clarkston, which is right next to that, one of the America's greatest cities, Waterford.
Oh most definitely.
I may or may not have grown up in, but there are a ton of Great Lakes in Clarkston. I think you're very aware of the one you're on.
Actually, my subdivision, we have lake access to one of them.
Yep.
It's a block away, but I don't consider my house a lake house. So
right. Yeah, I think there's a big distinction there for sure.
Yep. So actually, Dave from YouTube wanted to piggyback on the discussion about purchasing and the rehab price and things like that. And to sum up what he's asking is the funds that you get for the purchase price and the rehab, are you using them for just that property, or are you using that funds for for the other properties that you have as well? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I can take that. It is a crazy cash flow business, and we're constantly working on different houses. We set that money aside for that house. It's there for the house. If there's a need here and there, it doesn't mean you don't borrow from one to the other, because you need cash flow to do business and to get houses listed and stuff like that.
Yep.
But our investors know we've paid every investor back 100% of the time. We're on house 200 and something right now. So we've got an amazing process going. We've got phenomenal investors. We give them investor updates. They know what's going on in all those houses. We work super closely with our real estate agents who are part of that investment team in different ways. And but it it is a cash flow business. So there are times where an unbudgeted item will come up, and you got to take care of it, and you're not whole until the house sells. So you're in that crunch time. Every flipper knows you're in that crunch time where you put the money in and you're waiting for it to sell to come back out. It always happens. We've sold 100% of our houses. It will happen. Sometimes it takes an extra minute, but it actually never really did. We sold houses pretty quickly back in the day. It's taken, normally we list on a Friday, and everybody, this isn't necessarily just us, but we list on a Friday. We were talking to our real estate agent on Sunday with multiple offers. So that's how it always went. for the most part. Now it's taken, a couple more weeks, but regardless, you're still locking into a 30, 45 day, 60-day, more sometimes based on
Yeah.
FHA and stuff. You've sold the house, you're just waiting for the money to come back.
And he clarified the reason here is because exactly what you just said about the cash flow, the crunch, and with the market slowing and things like that. And so he also commented saying thanks for the clarification.
You have to be careful at the same time. When you're doing a few houses, like last year, our average, like we owned in between 30 and 35 flips at any given point in time. We don't have 30 to 35 different bank accounts. So all that money is going into the bank account. Some projects you go over on, some you go under on. And, when you're in scale mode, I don't know if this is going to go the right way. Up and to the right. And I don't know,
that's okay. Either way, we get it.
I'm going to go up and to the right with this way for me. So when you're going up and to the right, like what happens is as you're adding more and more houses, like you finish the project, now you're waiting, that 2 months for that house to sell. You're just sitting there waiting for that money to come back. And as you add more houses, like it's constantly like just throwing money at all of these houses. The only time that, I've heard a lot of people that have done a lot of flipping at scale and really, we were at Wendy Patton's event last week, and she said, there's a lot of people that do this at scale that don't ever feel like they have money because you're constantly throwing it at all the houses. So really the only time where you feel like you truly have money is on the downside, when you're starting to sell off all, when you go from a position of like, hey, we're going to do, 50, 60, 70 houses a year, and now we're going to go down to 12. Well, now when it starts to go down, that's when all that money that you continue to invest starts to come pouring into the business. So we're 5 years into the business. The other part where it starts to pour into the business is just over time as you continue to do profitable houses. And then it just, that always adds to the coffers. But it's a challenging business to do flipping at scale. It requires a lot of cash, a lot of access to cash. And it's one of Todd and my superpower, I would say, is that we do a really good job with our financial investors to be able to make sure that most of the time we have enough funds to be able to purchase houses, to be able to continue like keeping the business going.
So kind of with that, Alex Kilbro said, he asked, where do you guys get your funding from? And I'm assuming private investors. Is that right?
Yeah, it's private investors. And then somebody up top asked, how did you fund the first 3 deals? So kind of piggybacking off of that, so one of the advantages that we had is we partnered with somebody that had experience. And because he had experience, we were able to piggyback off of his experience with private investors. So Todd and myself both had a little bit of money from our corporate days that we put into the business. But, it's definitely not a ton. We were able to buy a house or 2 with it. And then, so you start with your private investors. And this is what I would recommend for anybody that's trying to get off the ground with this stuff. Partner with somebody, be around a project so you can actually say, hey, this is, I've been around this flipping business. I have done this project. And then one of the things that we do, Nicole on our team, who's here, she says, hi team. What up, Nico? She is awesome, by the way.
How's it going, Nico?
She talk about secret sauce. That girl is on fire. She can sit here. She could take this entire 90 minutes. She could probably talk the entire week about everything flipping, and absolutely amazing. Randy,
if you're looking to do a flip someday, we will connect you with Nicole, and you'll be all set.
I would love to. So
she's just a wealth of knowledge. But one of the things that we do is with our investors, we have these investor decks that we send out, and we share them quarterly. But as a new flipper that's just getting off the ground, if you partner with somebody, even if you're a wholesaler that wants to be a flipper and you say, hey, can I come along for the ride on this deal? Can I help see how the decisions are made? Then you can start to show some before and afters, like, hey, I was a part of this project in this regard. I saw that, I was at the table, to be able to hear how the decisions were being made. And here's just a little PowerPoint and investor deck that shows befores and afters, and then you can talk, in an educated, manner with these investors. Then it shows them like, hey, you know what you're talking about. I get that you don't, have a tremendous amount of experience, but what you lack of in experience, you're combating that with like a professional presentation. You're showing that like, hey, I've done this. You've been there and you've seen it, and that type of stuff goes a long way. Just the professional side of the business, to be able to fund these, and then over the course of time, I'm not going to go too deep on this, but this entire list right here, these are all investors for us.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's a lot, and over the course of time, you start to, grow that, and you nurture those relationships and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. So I'm actually one of my buyers that I'm working with. It's funny because I've sold him more than 3 deals, but 3 deals recently, and one of them he made a nice profit, and because I was a wholesaler on it, I had all the before photos. So what did I do? I went through it. I did a walkthrough video. I interviewed him, and I actually posted up on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't watched that video, it's up there on YouTube. And we are watching, he has 2 more flips that he's in the middle of, and he keeps sending me these progress photos and videos and walkthroughs, and it's like, dude, that's awesome. Like the decision that he made and what he did to do that, and it is really crazy. So we're gonna do the same thing on the next 2 as well. So it's really cool to learn the process from a flipper doing it. Like I'm in the trenches with him. I'm not making the decisions, obviously, but like he's telling me what he's doing and the reason why, So 100% get that. Yeah. So, and I think you already asked this one from Jeff G about the flipping over 200 houses and not having a lot of reserves or whatever. I mean, you pay back your investors pretty well in order to have that, and I'm sure you guys have reserves somewhere.
No,
for cash flows.
I do think Jeff's asking a really great question, and
I'll bring it back up here.
Yeah,
So.
it's funny. I think it's a question I've asked myself 100 times too. But here's the situation. So you were doing all these houses, the majority go well, and so you've got money coming in, and when you're scaling, you are reinvesting a lot. And what we've started doing in the last year that's really impacted cash flow is these short-term rentals, and we don't have a perfect funding solution in place yet with short-term rentals, but we put about $100,000, and we're starting to go out and find some great investors who want to be a part and kind of come in on a property and say, hey, I like that lake house, I will put in $100,000, and it goes on top of that house. But right now we've done like 7 now. We're actually working on more, but we've got 5 launched. We've done 7. It's $100,000 each. So and they're locked in the house. I mean, they're in that house. They're not coming out until you're kind of your attorneys start getting the money back slowly. It's very different than flipping. Flipping, you get the money back more quickly, not as quickly as you do, Randy, with wholesale, but and we do that as well. But we've spent a lot of time when you're scaling, investing in the company.
Yep.
We love the short-term rental business, but it is an unbelievable cash crunch to the nth degree, like we haven't quite seen before. And we're figuring out, and maybe my favorite thing that we did near the end of last year was take our incredible bookkeeper with REI Books, Kirk and Joni, and we've moved Kirk into a fractional CFO position where he can help me. I mean, we've been threading needles all the time to make the cash flow work, but we're starting to do some real forecasting and stuff like that. So we know when houses are closing, when that money's coming back, and what we need to legitimately do these short-term rentals. Because if, we want to do 26, like I'm not real good at math here, but if we do 100,000 per house, that's 2.6. So that money can go, 2.6 million. That money can go pretty darn quickly, and it's a great buy. Like everything's good. We still, the house appraises for a great amount. It's all in there, but we're still on top of the loan that we're getting. We're putting, upwards
extra money into it.
of our
Yeah.
own money into that deal, and there it goes, and it's just stuck there for a while.
So you know, you kind of skimmed over this, but you called it a fractional CFO. Now, I've heard this term one time before, and I've heard it from one person, Pace Morby. And I heard it from him. That's the first time I ever heard something called a fractional CFO. So for the people who don't know what a fractional, because I've only heard it one other time. So for the people who don't know what a fractional CFO is, why don't you go ahead and explain what that is?
Yeah, sure. It's pretty simple. It's like a fraction of their time, right? Can be whatever. You know, we got 4 different businesses, so it's a decent fraction sometimes, but it's taking our bookkeeper who's got mad skills beyond bookkeeping and could be a CFO anywhere, and wants to kind of stretch his brain and dive into the business and understand it. He's a great team fit and phenomenal person. He and his wife both. And so we pull him into a little bit more than just the bookkeeping, where
Yep.
he's creating cash flow reports, obviously doing all of our P&Ls and our balance sheet, stuff like that. That's the basic bookkeeping. But taking that and putting forecasts on top of that and running projections and allowing us to go real live time with, our budget versus actual while houses are going and stuff like that. So it's allowed us to take our projects to another level. And you really have to be doing that when you're operating at this kind of volume. Otherwise, you're just spinning with houses and numbers and stuff like that. So that's been it's been a really important part and a big step for us this year is to have Kirk and a fractional CFO. Yeah, but it's just kind of like a part-time CFO. He could be a CFO for us, in like 2 or 3 other companies at the same time.
Got it.
So it's not.
Got it.
That makes
So
sense.
that makes perfect sense, and that's kind of how it was explained as well. I just wanted for everybody else to know what that was because, like I said, I've only heard it ever one time, and that was on a YouTube video. So it is out there. You can do it. You don't need to pay a full-time CFO, especially if you don't need one for full time. So. And then this question comes from Andre Kingston. Is there a market for short-term rentals for Hunter Havens versus the lake houses and things like that? I mean, I kind of understand that question. Do you guys do?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, he's just asking it from my understanding, it basically, is there, do short-term rentals work for hunters?
Yep.
And the answer there is maybe, like it just depends. Like, it, as an example, we have a JV partnership. This is a lake house, but the example still works. We have a JV partnership with a house in Battle Lake, Minnesota. One of our investors, it was their childhood like cottage that they went to. Nobody lives in Minnesota anymore, but they don't want to get rid of it. So the house is free and clear. So since we are deeply involved with this business, we run the Airbnb for them. And like it covers their nut, like they're, like covers the taxes, covers the maintenance of owning it. They're happy. So from that standpoint, if you have a house in the woods and it's paid off, like 1,000%, you'll be able to figure out how to rent it. There's different levels of Airbnbs. Think of them like hotel brands. I got to stop using that example. It's a great example, but I got to figure out my hotel brands. I got to
go with the stores, the Walmarts and
I was thinking restaurants. Like you got your Mortons, and you got your you know what I mean? Like, so what brand are you? So if you want a cabin in the woods, are you going to be like a luxury cabin in the woods? Are you going to be a budget cabin in the woods? And then it's just a math equation because, for us, what we do is we take a look and we try to say, okay, can we get 60% occupancy, on average net throughout the year for this particular property? What's the average daily rent that we can get for this particular property? And does it cover like all the bills and leave profit for us to the number that we're trying to hit? So, you can absolutely have like a hunter's cabin. That makes sense. It just depends on the price. So that's kind of a hard one. If you have a specific example, we could kind of talk that through.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't have an example, and I completely understand that. And for here in Michigan, going up north for hunters, I think it would definitely work. I think the marketing just needs to be out there for that. So, but I think especially here in Michigan, you don't have to subject it to just hunters because you can use it all year round. Just because it's not on a lake, if it's up north, it still has the fall leaves, and if it's relatively close to in town or the lake, things like that. So all of that.
I think Jeff kind of asked a question that I kind of glossed over what the actual question was.
Okay.
And he said how many lake houses are actually on the water and not a block away.
Yeah.
And originally we took that as like, hey, all of our houses, because that's the prism I'm thinking. I should be thinking through Jeff's lens right now. It sounds like he might have a house that is a block away. That can absolutely work. If you have lake access, like it could. We've chosen to purchase houses that are on the water because we feel like that, we try to do like a high end, stay for our folks. And we think that kind of adds to it. Definitely try to find special, unique properties. I've definitely stayed in Airbnb that was not directly on the water. And guess what? You walk over there, it's a little bit cheaper on your average daily rate, so you have that. And then the other thing that he kind of asked was about the rentals. And I think you're getting ready to go there. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
The way that our funding was set up, our funding was not conducive. We didn't pay cash for all these properties. We used private funds to be able to buy these houses, fix and flip them. So we have short-term money on these. And that was just our on-ramp into the end of this business. We didn't have long-term rentals. Our first partner didn't have those. So we didn't learn it that way. So we learned how to flip houses. So that was kind of the approach we took. And it's kind of challenging. And even now, like we have a good amount of experience, it's hard to go from flip, which is short-term money, to long-term rentals. And even short-term rentals, both short-term rentals and long-term rentals require long-term money. And to be able to make that pivot, it's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah, because the thing is that when you're using short-term money, like if you're going to want to keep it, you're going to have to use the burst strategy. Well, there's also a seasoning period behind that. And you also got to make sure, with how the loans are going right now, it's like, well, when you get it, the rates might be 4%, but when you're selling it, the rates are like 6%. So, you don't really know. Sometimes it may work, and sometimes that's an exit strategy. And you have to buy them enough right to, and this is the way I've learned that when I'm selling a house, I have to price it enough where my buyer, you guys, would have multiple exit strategies. Okay, if it's fix and flipping, great. If that's not working, if it's not selling in time, you know what? I'll refinance it out, get my money out, and use it as a long-term rental, or a short-term rental, whatever the case may be. And so it's just different strategy. And you may not use that on all of them or some of them, but it's just a tool in the tool belt. So,
Randy, I will say I read that question from Jeff, and I love his questions because these are the same questions that I ask myself, and I would, literally, if I could go back, I would love to go back through all our houses and say that one will rent, that one we should have rented, that one we should have rented.
Yep.
It's also, but you're right. I mean, ideally, if you could do the burst strategy, which is buy, rehab, refi, and then rent it, and leave the burst strategy is trying to leave no money in the house. You're getting, and by the time you refi it, you get all the money back with the rehab because the appraisal rate was so high, right? It appraised for high enough value. and then you can rent it out, and it's all positive cash flow. So if we could
yeah.
do that every time, you would certainly do it. Otherwise, you're still leaving money into the rentals. However,
Yes.
I totally agree with Jeff. If I could go back in time right now, I would love to pick, like, I don't know if it'd be 100 houses, but I could definitely find you 25 houses that we would put in our portfolio all day long for long-term rentals, and a handful of those would be great for short-term rentals as well. And if we had done that, we'd probably have some way better cash flow coming in as we go. So that's that's something I tell people now. Like, if I could go back, what would you do if you could go back in time? I would definitely have picked, siphoned off 1, 2, 3, 1 out of 5, maybe 1 out of 10, something to put into rentals just to create a cash flow bucket.
Yeah, and I have that too. I have wholesale deals that I wish I would have just been able to take down myself. The issues you have is your experience, your timing, your cash flow, your whether you can do it, just your timing in life. Okay.
No doubt.
In my case, I was working on a renovation at my personal house, so that way, like, all my money was going towards that. I couldn't use anything for any rentals or extra projects. So,
Right.
so it's kind of, everyone has their own path that they need to take. They learn everything as they go. And that's why I call it a tool in the tool belt. Whether you use it or you don't, it's still a tool there for you to use. So,
Exactly.
And, the other thing about that is, like, we've been doing this 5 years, 5 years in the business, and we've done a lot. We've done it pretty quickly. This year, like, we recognize that we were waiting, to go to Jeff's question, we were waiting for the market to change, and while the market's on an uptick, it's like, okay, well, let's sell these things. Now the market's on the downtick. Now it's like, okay, we're gonna start buying these. Like, our goal this year for long-term rentals, we plan on purchasing in between 150 and 200 houses in the city of Detroit for long-term rentals, to try to prevent against some of this cash flow stuff going forward. And then same thing with short-term rentals, so that's a huge goal that we have. But it's always, to your point, like, it's all timing and life, right? Like, we're in the position that we're in right now. We recognize it, and now we're trying to kind of adjust accordingly. But being able to do what we've done over these last 5 years has made us uniquely qualified to be able to try to tackle this stuff that we're trying to accomplish this year. And as annoying as it is that we don't have 100 rentals right now, we recognize that that's an important part of the future of the business. And that's, we kind of pivoted, like, pretty quickly to be able to do that, changed our financing, changed all sorts of buying criteria, partnered up with people. Like, we did a lot in a very short period of time to be able to turn the ship in kind of a different direction.
And you know what? That's what it's called business. You adjust, and you see what comes in, you take what comes in, and you adjust on the fly. And this is, that's why I love doing these podcasts. That's why I love doing, talking with people in business, because you know what? Everyone says, oh, this is going to be like 2008. No, it's not. It has its own unique circumstances, and you have to react that way. Now, you can take parts of it from 2008 and apply, but it's not like 2008. Okay. For anybody who was around during that, I was just getting into the adulthood, as far as.
Congratulations. You crossed over. we were rooting for you, Randy. Good job.
I know, right? So, I graduated high school in 2002, and back in 2008, I think I was just becoming a mechanic, and I ended up getting laid off in 2009. Went back to school. I've reinvented myself probably more times than anybody else has in their entire life. So it's crazy, but I have fun doing it, and I've learned from every single thing that I've done. So
You have to, Randy. I mean,
Yeah,
it's so important to be able to do that. I mean, you listen to Todd's background, like, the
yeah,
amount of banks and companies that he's kind of talked about over the course of time, and things that we've done, that he's done, that I've done. Like,
hmm,
you're constantly, I like to look back in these like little 5-year increments. And so we were
yes,
sitting at an investor lunch one time, and he was just kind of talking about, like, he had this throwaway comment, and he's like, "Isn't that crazy how much you can actually accomplish in 5 years?" And then he just kind of like kept his thought going. And like for me, my brain exploded. I was like, "Oh my God." Like 5 years ago, like we were just getting into the flipping business. We hadn't flipped one house. 5 years
hmm,
before that, I started working with Todd, and with Todd, we wound up, selling, going through 2 acquisitions. And then 5 years
yep,
before that, I was in a position to where I was working a corporate job. It was not my favorite job, had a ton of debt, made like a whole bunch of like headway to try to get rid of that debt, and then was able to start that entrepreneurial incubator that Todd talked about at the very beginning. So you just kind of look at
hmm,
these like weird 5-year increments. And I think for motivated people like yourself, Randy, where, you're always trying to reinvent, it's like you're just learning, you're learning and
hmm,
pivoting and moving forward, failing forward. And man, that's how, that's what success looks like. You just kind of keep doing that over and over and over and over. And then pretty soon, I started working at Quicken Loans in 2004. That means that I am 19 years into like mortgage, real estate,
yep,
credit, all that type of stuff. So pretty soon you're just like, holy crap, I did not intend to like be an expert in this field, but
hmm,
I can talk with you about mortgages. I can talk with you about like real estate agent stuff. I can talk with you about houses and flipping and credit. And like, it's just nuts. Like everything that's surrounding this business, appraisals, you just learn it over
yeah.
the course of time. And even your job as a mechanic, I'm sure, has helped you doing this in some weird way.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's funny because I went to mechanic school. I went to Wyotech. Anybody who knows Wyotech or whatever, um, I went to Wyotech. Was a mechanic. When I got laid off in the auto industry, I went and become a photographer. I went to school and became a photographer. Did that for 10 years.
Hmm.
Then got it back into the automotive industry and on the other side, and now I'm in the R&D side of, and I'm a technician. So I'm still kind of back in the mechanic realm, and that's my day job. I'm an electrical technician, in the R&D space. And then I started this business doing wholesale and real estate, completely separate. But guess what? It works because guess what everybody else in this area is in? Automotive. And
Yeah.
I can relate to sellers. I can relate to people who work in the automotive industry, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hey, Randy, one of the things that, for your listeners, and it sounds like you've done a great job and we believe pretty highly in it, is just partnering, surrounding ourselves with great people.
Yes.
Brian's phenomenal at helping anybody that needs help, anybody that's got a question, anybody who wants to ride around and shadow him or learn from Nicole, or heck, I mean, we talk about Nicole a lot right now because we're talking about the flipping business. We've got a leader, Jen Lamming, who ran our wholesale business for a while, moved over and is doing incredible things in the short-term rental business right
Hmm.
now. We're partnered up with TC Greenwood down on the Detroit stuff. He's amazing.
Love TC.
Ryan and Alicia Tower doing some wholesale stuff. Yeah, I mean, and having people, like, I hear some things that you're passionate about. There's nothing
Yep.
better than doing the things that you're passionate about. Jen loves hospitality and handyman
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
She's running a hospitality business 100%.
Hmm.
She's dealing with people. She's phenomenal at that. Nicole's got incredible design. So like our houses don't just get rebuilt and painted and carpeted. They get incredible people walk in, they're like, wow. And she started soft staging it, and now she gets to take those same houses and turn them into Airbnbs, and they're knockouts, and you put people in their passion zone. And it goes a long ways. But surrounding yourself with good people. And we say, last thing there is, we see all of these houses
Hmm.
and as opportunities. And back in the day, we were really, we're really good at flipping. And the
Yep.
market just said, hey, it's a great time to be really good at flipping. So we did,
Yep.
and like it's
Yep.
hard to keep something. It's easy for me to say I'd go back and keep those 25
Yeah.
houses right now, but at the time you're like, it's a great deal. Like we just did a great job on it. The house is amazing. It's going to get multiple offers and sell for more than the ARV that we had initially. So why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. And
And
you learn
now the
from every
market's just
single
in a
one.
great place. Yeah, it's in a
Yeah.
great place for renting and stuff like that. So we're making that pivot, and we just see them all as great opportunities. And you put a great team around it, and generally speaking, good things happen.
Awesome. Now, I believe it was Andre Kingston who asked, may he contact you tomorrow? He has a few examples, and this is the guy who asked about the hunter cabin.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely not on that one. What's your next question?
love it. Love
No,
it.
call Bryan. No, 1,000%. I'm not just paying lip service. Happy to
Yep.
help anybody. It's part of our isms are, one of our isms are we go further together, and
Yeah,
we
most
believe in
definitely.
that wholeheartedly.
So one thing Cornerstone Metro Realty from YouTube actually has is, have you experienced flipping non-residential properties or just going into home building?
We haven't done anything non-residential, but one of the things you kind of learn, like we haven't done that yet, but like construction's kind of construction. Not to really dumb it down, but if it made sense, we've looked at apartment buildings. We haven't done one of those yet either. It really
Mhm.
just comes down to we're super opportunistic about whatever comes across our plate. And if you were to
Gotcha.
come across a commercial building that needs to be flipped or updated, or it's unique and it's an opportunity for us, then what we would do is we would take a look at that and we'd go, okay, um, like here are our people that can do these types of
Mhm.
jobs, that do our houses. Can any of them do this type of job? And I think we have a couple that could probably handle commercial stuff right now.
Mhm.
And then if not, then it's like, okay, you take a look at your network and you go, okay, well, who do I know
No,
anybody?
hey, Brian, you don't have to look any further. We've got one of our construction teams right now, Maztop Construction. They're unbelievable with Mason and crew, and he has been begging to do a commercial project. He's like, "What?" He's like, "Why do you guys do these single family homes? You're crazy. Go to the
Yeah.
construction. We'll white box it. It's so great. We'll rent it out. The people come in. They'll pay for their own construction for their little shop within your big building that you're renting out." He thinks we're absolutely nuts to have not done that. So we will do it at some point, and we've got a
Yeah.
crew that is like
That
phenomenal crew
that
that is all about it.
that's one thing I find interesting about commercial is that you can rent it out to somebody and they're going to pay for the renovation.
I
You
know.
don't have to.
I know.
So it's crazy.
It is
But
crazy.
yeah, now awesome. So with that being said, we kind of already got into where you're at right now. And I kind of want to sum it up a little bit. You got your fix and flip, which is what you guys started off with. You got your short-term rentals, which we already talked about for the lake houses. One thing we didn't talk about is about your wholesaling business. So why don't you go over that for a little bit and like how are you getting your wholesale deals? What are you doing because as far as your inbound, or are you just JVing with people, with buyers or anything like that? Why don't you
Yeah.
go over that?
Yeah, this has gone through a couple of revolutions. And we've had maybe a revelation within a revolution. So we started totally internally, just kind of doing it ourselves. Jen Lemming ran it. She was phenomenal. And then we found these things called short-term rentals, and she was like born to do them. So, Jen's like, how can I move over to here and do this? So we've done a couple turns. We brought another leader in to run the wholesale internally, and we did. I stuck it somewhere. I was going to show you a picture of our what I do with it. Doggone it. Our postcard with Brian's beautiful family on it. But we've done
You should keep that
postcards.
front and center, Todd. Front and center all the
Man, I
time.
literally just had it.
God,
You know
but
what happens? I
I know where
cleaned
it
the
is.
office a little bit, so it looks clean. If you look here and here, it's really not clean, but I cleaned it so that it would look good for you, Randy.
Did
But
you
in
just
cleaning
pick it
it,
up
I knew where it was
on your
before I
nightstand?
cleaned it. No, I don't. How often does that happen?
Is it on your nightstand, Todd? Is that where you put it?
Oh man, they're everywhere, dude. We got an entire refrigerator with just Brian's family on it.
Makes
It's
sense.
So do you, before you go to bed, you kiss your wife and then look over, see his
Oh,
photo,
yeah.
kiss him, good night, you know?
Sweet dreams, Brian and Sarah,
Good night, buddy.
Nate and Bryn.
See you in the
Night,
morning.
guys. So we did that spin, and we just, we were doing pretty good. In fact, I was just running through the numbers with a super small team, barely even trying. We did like 30 deals 2 years ago, and we did even 15 last year, as we were just kind of almost not even trying to wind it down. Went a little over 200 grand with that business, but we were also pumping a lot of money into it. I mean, we were putting some money into the marketing too, so that was hardly all profit. But near the end of the year, we kind of realized we just weren't as good at the sales process as we wanted to be, and we found an incredible mom and pop shop, Tower Home Buyers, Ryan and Alicia, who are doing some really cool things, had some great processes in place, and we've really converted over. Ryan, we put, a couple of VAs around it. We've put a great acquisitions person, a great dispo person. We've got some offer makers, and we're doing right now 100% text. And pumping out text, and we got a great process around it. And we're starting to really get some traction on that front. But we just started that, a couple months ago. So we're just starting to put those in place, starting to see the fruits of that. And then we'd like to build and scale and get, we've got a goal to get into a second market this year, whether it's Grand Rapids or Ann Arbor. But we kind of want to nail it and scale it first here in Detroit. And we've another goal we have for 2023 is to really figure out our tech stack. So we're going from like REI Reply and Twilio and some, smaller quick hit stuff that's great and nimble to like Left Main and Salesforce and launch control and stuff like that, where we've got a little bit more power and data, and we're putting an REI Sift in place and stuff like that, so we can really get control of the data, as we're doing a lot of data and skip tracing right now. So we're starting to put a big company around it. It ends up being a different tech stack and company, and you need some more people to kind of fill those gaps. But when you got a great process, you can kind of build around it. You got a great team, and Ryan and Alicia are phenomenal. So
who are you using for your skip tracing services?
We were doing some JA stuff that was like 3 cent and 6 cent, and it was doing okay, and we were comparing it, and we just moved over to IDI. And like I say that we just moved over. Well, we've been doing batch leads as well. But the IDI data for 10 cents is pretty solid. So far, so good.
Yeah, that's good. I've been using Lead Sherpa as well, and things like that. So I found out that I didn't have good data coming from the really inexpensive places. So but I did want to say that if you ever do need, it's my little pitch here, if you ever do want a JV on anything, I do have buyers in the Tri-County areas. I have buyers that are looking for Metro Detroit in the suburbs all the time. So
1,000%,
let me know
for sure.
So so with that being said, you're kind of, what is your goal, or what do you think you'll do this year on wholesale deals? Will you hit that 30? Are you trying to do like a couple a month or 5 a month?
Yeah, we were just going through. We were just kind of set up. You ever used the traction methodology in book to kind of set goals and stuff like that? We just got.
Yeah.
I thought Brian was going to hold the book up. But, there we go. We've just been kind of running our team through goal setting. I mean, we just did it. I might not get this perfect, but our goal is to do about 800,000 this year.
Okay.
That breaks down in Q1 to, I think it's 86.
Hold it up again and see traction right there.
It is. Look at him. Look, he's got it open like he's actually reading it too.
I know, right?
There's just pictures on the inside of this. The pictures of my family on the postcards. That's all. I'm like, oh, it's very interesting.
That's awesome. So
Our goal in Q1, Randy, is $86,000. Our goal by the end of the year is to be ramped up in September, October, November. December is a little tricky month, as you probably know.
Yeah.
In wholesale. So the goal is to get to, I guess we're at 82 for the first quarter, and then 86,000 run rate per month at the end of the year, which is a run rate of $1 million. And we've got kind of a plan to get there. It ends up being 800,000 for this year, and then it starts to really scale from there once we get to a run rate of 86,000 a month.
Awesome. Now
And it's about 80 deals total this year.
Okay. So now I got a quick question was, how did you overcome or react when Twilio for the texting and changed their requirements? Did you just try to go on the fly? Did that bring some downtime for you since you do mainly texting?
You know, it was probably pretty fortunate timing for Ryan, Alicia, and Tower Home Buyers, because we already had launch control in place. That's our texting mechanism.
Awesome.
And they've got their own deal. They've got incredible guideposts and guardrails in place to help you really make sure you're getting the right messages out to the right people, and you're not getting in spam. And they're super careful on that. And you're creating all kinds of spinners and stuff like that to send the right messages and different messages. Twilio, can't launch control, and there's no commercial for launch control, just what we use, but they cater to the real estate business. So they understand real estate to the nth degree. Twilio is just a service for everybody. And so they've done nothing specific. I'm not ripping on Twilio. It's just the case that was. So we flipped over to launch control. It's been great. We've got our VAs run. Like I said, we were already doing it on our side.
Okay.
So we just basically converted everything over from REI Reply and Twilio to launch control.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've only dabbled in the text messaging. I'm mainly a component of cold calling myself. So, I'll have a VA cold call to get the initial set up, and then I'll do the follow-ups myself. So, I'm going to be looking to scale things as I go. It's not to say I'm at a good place now. I'm working my processes out, doing with a day job. It's very hard. So, but
people love those dinner time phone calls, Randy. That's great.
Oh yeah.
When you're done with work and what do you use? Do you use like Mojo Dialer or something like that
so we use Call Tools. So I love Call Tools because it doesn't go to my phone. Like if I'm not there to answer it, like it will go to a voicemail, and then I get an email right away with the recording. So I don't even have to log in to Call Tools in order to hear the voicemail. All I do is it comes straight through the email, listen to the recording, and I can choose to call back. I can choose later or anything like that. And then what I do is when I do my follow-ups, I don't use Call Tools. Call Tools is mainly just the initial, and then I have it go anybody who says yes, they want to sell, I have it go to my Podio. So then that goes in my Podio, and then I'll follow up, and I actually have a Google Voice set up, which is this number right here. So you can always reach me no matter what. That goes straight to my cell phone. So, and that's how I follow up, is through my Google Voice number.
That's awesome. No, that's a great system. And Podio was great. We started on that, and then we moved to Investor Fuse, which is a kind of a different version built on top of Podio, and then recently moved to Salesforce. So it kind of brought everything together a little bit better for all the different things that we were doing.
That's awesome. So now, do you guys have a physical location, or is everybody remote?
Yeah, we have about 30 of them right now.
Let's call all your properties.
Let's call all our properties. We can meet at Airbnbs. We actually have a place that we've been using kind of as an office right now. It's our one house. It's kind of funny. It was the first thing I thought of when I saw Jeff's first question, because we do have one house that
About that.
it's Cooley Beach Road, and it's actually, the lake is on the other side of the road. We never call it a lake house, but it is right there, and it has lake access and all that kind of stuff. But that was kind of the first thing I thought of, and we have used that as a kind of a rallying point, because it's kind of central. It's in Commerce or White Lake, and it's just kind of right there where everybody gets together, next to that amazing town called Waterford. I don't know if you've heard of it.
So, well, I'd love to meet your team in person one day and maybe talk strategies about your wholesaling team. Whenever you have time, no rush, preferably summer. So,
Preferably summer. Yeah,
or spring.
With a jet. You like to do it out on the jet ski, right?
Most definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
So
that sounds good. Well, why don't I would love to connect with you and have those discussions, Randy. I think that'd be great. That's one thing our team does a great job of, but we could always do better. And we're looking for, we're part of great mastermind groups and stuff like that, but we are looking for great local people who know the business incredibly well, and look at a team and partner and do something pretty special in Detroit here. So we'd love to kind of join forces with you for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. And love to work with you. Love to work with anybody really. So, and kind of bringing that on, Johnny Dapper actually said he's an IT professional. Johnny, you can read the whole sentence here, but basically had the gist of it is, if you want to book a one-on-one call with me, I'm offering free one-on-one calls for people who want to talk about real estate, wholesaling, or just in general. Give me a call. My number's here at the bottom, or my email's scrolling at the bottom as well. And we'll schedule a call. The only requirement I say is we record it and I can put it on my YouTube channel. That's the only reason I do it for free. So, so I'm doing is anybody out there who wants to do that, wants to take me up on that. My number's at the bottom here. My email's at the bottom. Hit me up, and I'm always happy to help anybody else out. We'll record the call just like we're doing here and take it from there.
Hey, I know you're wrapping. Last thing I'll say with Johnny Dapper and that message, he's an IT professional. Like I said earlier, we love to take people who have skill sets and passions and use them. There's so many different things that can be used within real estate. It's kind of bizarre. It's almost like every passion has its little way into the real estate business. But IT for sure. I mean, there's this thing called integrators, and they're basically Brian's done a big talk up on a big stage somewhere. He's kind of a big deal. Just ask him, he'll tell you. But he did do a really cool talk about it being an all connected business, where there are so many different things that connect into real estate, and IT is certainly one of them. So you probably have a good discussion with Johnny on that even. And Randy, there's all kinds of things that need to be connected all the time.
Most definitely. So Dave said this one thing he wanted to get out. He said, one last thing, my disability and the things I was unable to do never mattered to 1701 family, and Jen and everyone else treated me with utmost respect and dignity. Good people, no doubt, 100%. That's a testament to you guys and what you guys built.
Dave took his disability and he used it as a superpower. He's
awesome.
He's an amazing human, honestly.
I didn't know he had a disability just meeting him. So
you never would. He's phenomenal.
Yeah. So real quick, we are coming to like an hour and a half setting here. I want to get to the point where you guys are going in the future and where you guys want to go to, and then how can anybody here who's watching help you meet that?
So, so basically our goal this year, we want to do in between 150 and 200 houses in the city of Detroit, specifically on the west side, typically brick, that we're looking that are worth $110,000 or more. We want to fix those up though. So we're trying to do 150 to 200 long-term rentals. We're trying to get to about 80 wholesale deals, which, you know, like we're you know, that might be more challenging on the side of this group. But if you know, you have any wholesale opportunities, you know, we're building out a pretty robust, you know, dispo and process and all sorts of stuff, so we could do that. We're also trying to purchase 26 waterfront and destination Airbnb short-term rental properties. So we're trying to be within 90 minutes of Metro Detroit. And if we're looking for special properties, if you've ever walked to a property and you're like, oh my God, like this is special, and it can be unique. Like it could be an old like firehouse, or it could be an old school building, or, you know, something that's just like on a special piece of water. Like we're open for all of it. Ideally, those are fixers. We'd love to fix them. That kind of works best for our model. And then the other 26 properties we're trying to do is flip properties, typically in the suburbs. And we're all over Metro Detroit. So we kind of go where the opportunities are. And, you know, we just kind of tackle it that way. So
awesome.
So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for those things. And then of course we're always raising private funds as well. So most of our private funders, you know, they fund $100,000. You know, some of them fund more. We got some bigger people that fund a lot more, but you know, anybody that's interested in kind of going for a ride and learning kind of the inside baseball of this business, we're happy to talk with you about being an investor in 1701 Homes and kind of everything that we're doing. And with those, you know, we always, you know, offer the inside baseball of what's happening. You want to learn about short-term rentals? We'd love to talk with you about short-term rentals. We can invest your money there. We can do it in the flipping business, like really whatever, you know, they are like excited about. Like we try to, like Todd mentioned earlier, try to put people with their passions. And, you know, if we can help people that are looking to invest, kind of learn along the way, then we do that stuff as well.
That's awesome.
Hey, Randy, some of our most fun days in the business over the years have been taking investors and doing house tours, like with them, you know, and seeing houses at different stages, and they get to ask questions. One of those things, you know, you can invest and it can be totally passive, and that works too. But we're also super happy to throw you in a car and go see them. And usually they like to. We've had investors take, you know, we'll take them to houses that were like half order houses that we had, and they're taking stuff home, and you know, ladders and you know, whatever. There's so much stuff that comes from the real estate business, but we've had some really fun days, and they're happy to, you know, whether you're an investor or not, happy to take anybody around on the show.
Most definitely. And that's the good thing about this. You know, get your name out there. You know, investors want to feel a part of the deal, you know, especially the type of investors who they don't really need the money, but they need a place to park their money. You know, what I mean by that is you got people that make a comfortable living, and they got extra cash. They just don't want to sit in the bank. Well, they would just want to make a nice return on it, but they want to feel like they're a part of something. And I think that's what you guys do. That's what you help make them feel like they're a part of something. You know, they can brag to their friends, hey, I'm a part of this flipping game here, you know. So, you know, it adds some credibility to them as well. So I think that's really cool. Now, if anybody wants to do that, if anybody wants to be a part of that, you know, or just want to sell you any deals or anything like that, how would they get a hold of you?
So you can have them, they could reach out to any of our socials. Everything social is at 1701 Homes, Facebook, Instagram, all that type of stuff. My phone number is 313-434-5019. They can, text is probably best there, 313-434-5019. Email is Bryan, Bryan, at 1701 Homes, and reach out that way. So, or just go on to Facebook. You'll see me there. Send me a message. And that's how you get in touch with me or us.
Awesome. And if you can't get a hold of them for some reason, get a hold of me. My number and email is all the way down here. I'll be happy to get a hold of them for you for a fee. I'm just kidding. I'm happy to connect people
There it is.
all the time. So
Oh.
no, so with that being said, I'm gonna have you guys bring you guys down and stick around for a minute. I just want to talk to you. And with that, we're gonna end this podcast. And one thing I always say when ending a podcast or all these is, let's all do deals together. That's it.
Amen. Amen, brother.
All right, everyone have a good day.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah.